Hello, everyone. My name is Dane Fredrickson. I am a B2B video expert, and today I'm introducing to you Simon Schmitz, who is a content positioning strategist, among other things. And we're going to have a little talk today about positioning, which I am in the middle of doing that for myself right now, so it's very top of mind. And I thought, what a great opportunity to talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing with positioning, which seems to be really, really hard. And I think we've all seen plenty of B2B SaaS companies out there, these techie kind of companies that they want to say what they do, but they get this like marble mouth, like long-winded garbage of a statement. So you're going to set us straight today, Simon. So I'll let you introduce a little bit about yourself as well. Take it away.
Yeah, hi, I'm Simon Schmitz. Like Dane already mentioned, I work as a content positioning strategist. That's what I call myself. Initially, I was only doing content help, the regular content strategy. But then the more I work with clients, I noticed that most of the content problems stem from a positioning problem, hence the pivot to that. So now I combine both and try to help people with setting up the positioning first to really nail their content strategy after that.
Yeah, because in my mind, just off the top of my head, positioning would have to be like the foundation of everything that you talk about, all your
Yeah,
content. Because if you don't know what you do, who you're for, who you're not for, how you help them, what the results are, those sorts of things, you're just kind of like doing content for what purpose then? If you
yeah, you're
can't
spinning your
make this
wheels, right? You
clear.
do it to feel good maybe, but like the results you get here and there, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really move the needle unless you tackle the root cause. And I think positioning, of course, it's not the remedy for everything, right? If you are not good at sales, it's not gonna help completely with that. It's gonna make it a little bit easier. It's gonna make it easier to understand, explain what you do for other people. But of course, there's still other work that is involved here. But I think positioning is something that's overlooked because people jump to the more sexy kind of tasks, right? Like coming up with a content strategy, like building out a funnel, all those things. But if the core foundation isn't solid, all those things eventually will fail or won't lead you anywhere, which is why I think positioning is so important.
Okay, so then if we're gonna break it down to like its purest sense, like how do you know if you got positioning right? Like if you had to explain this to my teenage daughter or a 5-year-old, like how do you explain what positioning done right is?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically what you said, right? Like you have to be able to explain what you do to someone that doesn't understand your bubble or your niche. So you have to be able to answer exactly what it is you provide, what problem do you solve, and who do you solve it for, right? So what is your niche? Those are the three main things there. Of course, there's other aspects that go into it, but those would be the things I would say positioning is.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I got tangled up with, and this has got to affect a lot of other people, is like it's so easy to talk about the technical aspect about
Mhm.
what you do. Like we make software, or we make video, or we build houses, or whatever the thing is that you do. But then there's this whole other like realm of business results and feelings, and like we take away struggle, or we drive value. These more like undefined things that if you only said those
Yeah.
and I have no idea how you do that. Like, we provide value to our customers. Like, okay, well, are you a construction company or do you sell software? Like, so how do you look at those two buckets and how much do they need to be filled?
So the first thing I would say is like, who are you solving the problems for, right? That's where it starts because of course every niche has different problems. You need to ask yourself, who have I worked with in the past where my results have given them, or like where my work has given them the best results, where like the problem they had was solved the best with, right? Go with that, and that gives you an idea of who your niche is. Of course, there's a number of ways to skin the cat for that, but it all starts with like knowing who you're solving problems for. And then after that, knowing what exactly is it you're solving, right? Everyone says, oh, we help people, I don't know, get better leads, or we help people do X, Y, and Z, but nothing is very specific. You always have to speak to the pain instead of saying, this is what we provide for this, right? It needs to start with the customer, not with what you do. Because everyone loves to talk about what it is they do and what their specific system is, their specific
Mhm.
strategy. But instead of doing just that, you need to talk about, hey, I know what your problem is, and I've been there, and we have exactly the solution to your problem if you want to work with us. That's what your positioning is. You lead with your client's problem, not with your solution.
Okay, so this is a great point for us to try this little experiment that we've cooked up, where I'm going to show you some of my perhaps terrible positioning statements, and then you can use your expertise and help show the audience how do we actually go about this. And if we've got some ideas of a positioning statement, that's great. Maybe you don't have one at all, but this is where I'm at, and so let's just get into it here and see if we can help save me from
Untangle it.
myself. So
Uh,
these are three potential positioning statements, and I'll just give you a
mhm.
second to read through them. And for the audience, I'll just read them out loud. B2B companies need ongoing video content to compete. Traditional agencies can't deliver sustainable systems. We can. And then the next one, we build sustainable video content systems for B2B companies so they can compete in today's AI saturated marketplace. And we're the only agency that combines strategic consulting with world class production to do it. That one feels really long. But
Mhm.
so let's go on to the last one here. I'll give you time to think about
Mhm.
them. We help B2B companies grow visibility and trust by creating a step by step plan to make the right videos regularly so they can stop losing customers to competitors. So
Okay.
you haven't fallen out of your chair or passed out from boredom. So that's a good sign, but that's maybe just your professionalism coming through.
No,
How,
no worries.
how
I think
awful
they
are
all,
these?
if I may interrupt you there,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they all have something to them, right? But like the trick here is to combine all three into one thing that's coherent. Because if you look at the first one, the best thing about the first positioning statement is that you lead with the problem, right? You don't talk about yourself and your approach. You talk about what B2B companies usually need or what they struggle with. It doesn't go really into the specifics why B2B companies need that, but like it does highlight the problem B2B companies have. The second one is very wordy, but it kind of shows um, what the problem is a lot of B2B companies have, that they are having a hard time competing in a marketplace that's oversaturated with AI. And it also highlights the thing that kind of makes you stand out from your competitors, right? That you combine strategic consulting with the world-class production. So that's the piece I like about the second one. The third one, I think the last part of that statement is the best piece. So B2B companies, they can stop losing customers to competitors. So that would be the statement I would lead with. Are you a B2B company that keeps losing customers to competitors? And then after that, you can maybe hint at why that is, because the marketplace is oversaturated with AI. And then you talk about we help B2B companies solve this. Of course, it has to be a little bit more specific by combining strategic consulting with a world-class production behind it. That's
Okay.
like a rough outline. Of course, I would have to sit down and kind of fine tune it, but
Yeah,
those are the
yeah.
pieces I would kind of try to move into one statement, then of course
Hmm.
put it down a little bit. So it's
Yeah.
like wordy, without leaving out anything important.
Yeah,
But
that's
the
great. That's
biggest
great
thing I
insight.
see here is that the problem isn't dished out specific enough, right? Like why is it a problem that the marketplace is so oversaturated with AI? Is it because not enough B2B companies have AI capabilities? They're not AI ready. Like I think the problem needs to be developed a little bit more to really make the positioning strong here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And just to kind of take this out of the sphere of what interests I have in getting this right, is this the kind of stage where your customers typically come to you where they've already got something and maybe they're stuck, or are they starting from scratch typically? Like, what's the right way to go and do this?
Yeah, I think when I worked with customers before on this, it usually happened organically because they didn't come to me for positioning help. They came to me for content help. And then it always turned into a positioning exercise, because we talk about, oh, this is what we can do with your content to make it more appealing. But then all the questions that come from the customer and all the questions I had for the customer really focused about around positioning, right? So this is the first step you do, like you think about like a lot of times I work primarily with consultants or like early stage founders. And a lot of times they have like this scattered expertise. They worked sometimes in different industries and different roles. And they all have a little bit of expertise that they bring from all these different roles. And now they have an idea that they have this area of expertise and they want to help people in that space with it. Now they say, I'm a full stack marketer with 20 years of experience and I can help B2B companies, founders, consultants, and VCs getting their marketing better, you know? I'm a stupid example, but it's very broad. And then the first exercise usually is to really narrow down what piece of the expertise really is the one that will sell the best and that solves the most immediate problem. And then B, what problem or like who do you solve the problem for, right? Like who do you want to work with? What is an ideal client for you? What industry is that ideal client usually part of? What is their niche, you know? And then you take those two pieces and you build a coherent like map out of like customers or like ideal client has this problem. This is exactly why it's a problem, and here is how my unique approach solves that problem.
Right. So then, in your experience, how does it work once you get the positioning right, and then you want to build out your content system? And what I'm really
Yeah.
curious about is this has probably changed quite a bit for you as well, very quickly. Like we now have AI slop everywhere,
Yeah.
so we have to like find the right kind of content that we need to use AI. I think we're all
Mm.
agreeing that we have to use it somehow. It's even like a mandate from the executive point of view. And then like you also don't want to end up in slop land. So like how are we building out these content systems pipelines that are AI enabled, but are
Yeah.
also in line from this positioning that we've just nailed and then rolling that out? How do you, I don't know, think or talk about that just general issue?
Yeah. So really quick first, like after the positioning is done, then we delve into like content pillars, right? Usually it's like 3 to 4 content pillars, meaning those are the things I want you to talk about in your content. So usually one is that displays your expertise. Another one is that talks about your genesis, who you are, where you're coming from, what your expertise is, and how your experiences shaped what you do right now with your service you're providing people. And then one post that could be like highlighting pains that people in your niche usually see. Uh, to build out that content strategy. And then the trick is to not get too deep into slop land. Instead of like, I think the most common knee-jerk reaction you see from people when I start posting content is, hey, I want to show that I'm an authority in in this space. Let me give out good advice based on what I've seen working with people. And then you type in a few ideas into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is, and it spits out like the most generic and forgettable post you can imagine, right? Like stupid, like white line after line after line, and like it's the classic. You don't need better systems, you need better content. You know, these, I don't know what the stylistic term is for those sentences, but these weird round
Yeah,
sentences.
this, not that.
Right. The way to combat that is, of course, you don't have to become a world-class writer, but I think it's figuring or like learning what the right constraints are for content that's written by AI. I usually help people with getting practice in like speaking your ideas into an LLM, like into an AI LLM, and then see what it puts out, and then really ruthlessly editing that output. So it really sounds like you.
Hmm.
Meaning just like sentences that are 3 words long, and then there's like a white space, and then the next sentence that's 4 spaces that are like 4 words long follows along. But more like short paragraphs that are easy to read, that really sound like storytelling, and that are not using the same stylistic choices you see from AI. And I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, the most important thing that AI won't be able to replicate is your personal story, right? AI doesn't know you as well unless you talk with it 24/7. There's always things AI won't know. And I think the only way to stand out in Slopland when it comes to AI is to kind of showcase your unique storyline, you know, and how it informs how you do business these days. And
Yeah.
if you can kind of like create a narrative around your brand that comes through your content, where people associate you with a certain level of expertise and a storyline that got you to that level of expertise, then they will start building trust. And of course, you won't get inbound leads on LinkedIn, for instance, overnight, but it might be that like 3 months down the line, someone that has seen your content on a regular basis and they've now noticed, oh, this is like a problem they oftentimes talk about, and I think this is exactly the problem I have. What better person to trust with than this person that keeps talking about my problem? I know where they're coming from, and I also know that they know what they're talking about. So that's when your content pillars all work together to build trust over time. So
Yeah.
that people either reach out to you, or if you see someone that regularly interacts with your content, it makes the outreach a whole lot easier and more natural because they know what you're all about. You don't have to explain it in a long-winded statement. Um, and the
Yeah.
whole process becomes has a lot less friction associated with it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your insights. We're
Yeah.
sort of at time here, so we're going to
Sure.
say goodbye. And don't forget that thought leadership and positioning are the antidotes to AI slop. So
Yes,
go get
exactly
them.
right.